This is Kyle Cherry. I'm Peter Bloomer, and we welcome you to Team Thrive by Prevail Online Coaching.
We want to help you build the strength, conditioning, mobility, and nutritional and stress management habits to not just survive, but thrive. All right, we're getting today into sleep. We've talked about sleep on some previous pods before, one of our first episodes way back when, and then a couple ones focused on a morning routine and evening routine, and we just wanted to come back and give a good all catch-all sleep episode. Peter, how long have you been interested in talking about sleep?
Oh man, sleep has been something, it's just crazy how so much of my life is revolved around sleep. I did my thesis for my master's on sleep deprivation and how it affected weightlifting performance. Mainly because prior to events, I could never sleep the night before, or Christmas, or I'm going fishing or something I'm really looking forward to. It was garbage. And I was like, what happens? So like I said, it's been a huge part of my life. And
Okay.
what about yourself?
I feel like I took this for granted for a long time because I always slept pretty good. So just, hey, you don't really know how important it is when you always do it well. But then once I started to not sleep as good, which is kind of during some stressful times in college or in times after, or there's other disruptions going on, then I really appreciated it once the sleep got better again, once I kind of put in the work to make it better. And now I notice if my sleep is, I feel like even a little bit off, I'm like, oh, the whole day just kind of sucks.
Yes,
you know? So it's
yes.
worth investing in to make sure it's dialed in. So now something I love talking about, I make sure to talk about early on with clients in our relationship together, address this from the get-go, because most of the things don't work very well if this is not going well.
Yeah, such one of the big foundational pieces to being successful and to get you to thrive.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So we're going to talk about why sleep matters, which, again, you probably know, but we're going to kind of reiterate that. We always want to start with why. And more importantly, we want to talk about why you're not prioritizing it already, right? Because even if you know why it matters, hey, well, what are the barriers, right? And the reason we titled this pod, Sleep, the High Performer's Advantage, is because it's, high performers who need sleep the most, but often who struggle with it the most.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into methods that make a difference and what you should focus on. We're going to go over a lot of different methods. A lot of different things can impact your sleep here. So there's a lot of options for things to work on, which is great, right? But it doesn't mean we need to do all of them all at once. Hey, what's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck?
And when we're done, we're hopeful that you will not take sleep for granted and that you will prioritize it like you should, especially if you're a high performer.
So let's get to it. So let's start with that question of why am I not sleeping enough already? Right? Can start with why. Hey, even though I know this is important, I know I feel better when I do, but something every day might make you neglect this, might make you push off the bedtime a little bit. Hey, well, what is that? Let's talk about that. So high performers, people who identify as being high achieving individuals, pride themselves on that, they often struggle with a few things. Number one, being stuck in fight or flight mode. You just kind of go all day. Inconsistent schedules. Hey, things come up that, kind of throw me off my game and kind of kick things down the road a little bit until later in my day. Running on caffeine instead of recovery. Man, I get so much more done when I'm wired and my brain's sharp and I do this instead of, I don't need to sleep. I can just do this. Stress carrying into bedtime. Maybe there's spinning thoughts and having a hard time getting the brain to calm down, or maybe it's waking you up in the middle of the night. Or late night scrolling as me time. Hey, all day I've been cranking things out, being really productive, taking care of my work, taking care of my family, taking care of other people, and I just need a little bit of me time, and that happens to be scrolling on Instagram at 11 o'clock at night, right? Oh, I know that's not good for me, but I need it. This is my me time. Okay, well, how can we get that in a more productive way?
And I can say every single one of these things I've done a lot more than I'd like to admit. And the next morning, I'm always like, why did I do that? So
it's important to realize, hey, this is coming from a good place, right? It's coming from a desire to be a high performer. You're not being lazy here. Pat yourself on the back that the intent's in the right place. But ironically, right, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot if we really do care about peak performance and we're not taking care of our sleep. Okay? That same drive that makes you succeed can also make it hard to slow down. Yeah, so let's address that, right? What does good sleep do for me? Okay, let's flip this around. Hey, when I sleep well, I'm more productive, right? There's endless research on productivity in various industries and fields and how things are better when people have their sleep habits in check. Energy, we all just know that anecdotally. Hey, I feel better, I feel sharper, I have a little more pep in my step when I'm coming off a good night of sleep versus a bad night of sleep. Mood, I'm less irritable, right? I'm just more cheerful. The whole world looks a little brighter. The colors are popping a little more when I look outside, right?
Yeah, if you don't believe that, ask your spouse.
Yeah. And then those are all kind of short-term things you would notice the next day. But cumulatively, there's a much higher chronic disease risk too when I'm not sleeping well. So there's a high risk of diabetes, heart disease, dementia, if there's not proper sleep habits in place over time. Okay, so that makes good sleep more appealing. But let's keep going. From a performance perspective, injury risk is greatly heightened when we're not sleeping well. Athletes with less than 8 hours of sleep a night are 70% more likely to get injured, probably due to slower reaction times and slower recovery times, just many things at play there. Driving, we all drive a car most every day. If I've been awake for 17 to 19 hours, that is comparable to having a 0.05 BAC, near the legal limit. And that's not a crazy amount of sleep deprivation, right? Many people are sleeping only 5 to 7 hours a night. And if that's you, this is you at the end of every day. If you're driving late at night, coming home from an event, hey, that's where you're at when you are sleep deprived.
Yeah, and sleep debt is real. If you keep having an hour or two less than you should, that 0.05 is not a 0.08. Now it's a 0.11. Like I said, it gets pretty serious. And even if for your own risk, but also just those around you too.
Yep. And then from a muscle mass and strength perspective, hey, most people who are going into the gym or are doing Team Thrive, hey, body composition, improving their strength is a part of those goals. 1 week of less than 5 hours of sleep a night decreased testosterone 10 to 15% in a group of individuals here in this study, right? So you're putting in all the hard work, but you're just kind of not going to see the results that you want to see from your training and your nutrition habits if the sleep isn't there to back it up.
When we have clients that come to us that have some pretty extreme aesthetic goals, if they don't have sleep dialed in and they're stressed, I said, this is something that I say, I'm not even going to say yes, or we're not even going to start down this road until we can fix this. And a lot of people, and we lose business, but I know long-term, they're not going to achieve what they want when their body's not getting that optimal recovery.
Yeah. And it's not just testosterone too. There's, hormones related to your hunger, your appetite, your satiety responses that all get kind of thrown out of whack a little bit if we're not sleeping well. So all the good things you're trying to do with your nutrition are going to be much harder to do if I'm not sleeping well. It's going to be harder to listen to my natural cues of hunger and satiety if I'm not sleeping properly. Yeah. So it can be work smarter, not harder. So just bringing it back to this question one more time: is the goal to be busy, or is the goal to be productive? So what defines success with your day? How much you fit into it, or how well you did those things, right? Because again, we can take pride on, I can sleep later. I can sleep when I'm dead. I only sleep 5 hours a night. Well, that gives me 3 more hours in the day versus sleeping 8 hours a night. But what are you actually going to do with that time? And you might do less, but you're going to do that better if you're sleeping better. So what about sleep matters? Hopefully you're bought in. Like, yep, I'm fired up. I'm ready to sleep good tonight. What about it matters? So total time, number one, we want 7 to 9 hours a night. Consistency, number 2, your body runs on rhythm. So you're going to hear us talk a lot about the value of having consistent sleep and wake times. We care about this just as much as the total time, even if it means that, hey, maybe we're getting a little less total time on average. But even if we're consistent, that might be more beneficial. And then quality. So how good is your sleep environment? What's your stress going into bed and into bedtime? All these things will deeply impact the quality of your sleep as well. So total time, consistency, and quality.
And there might be a few of you out of there. There's not a lot. Generally, it's less than 10% of the population that do great and even are very successful with under 7. But I wouldn't start there. Like I said, there's a handful of you, but not the majority. So if you're like, wait a minute, I do this, I feel good, like I said, you might be that anomaly there. But that 7 is really that minimum that 80 to 90% of the population definitely needs.
Yeah, and there's a difference between doing okay and thriving, right? Which is kind of the whole mission of our team, Thrive. Don't just survive, thrive. So, can you survive sleeping 6 hours a night? Yeah, sure. Yeah, but will you thrive? Maybe not, right? So be open to change there. Right. So we're going to take a 3-phase approach to address sleep, address these, the total time, consistency, and quality. We're going to look at the morning, first of all. Yeah, how can we set the rhythm? The morning is huge for setting the circadian rhythm that makes us feel more alert to start the day and more tired naturally at night, so I don't have to try so hard at night to fall asleep. During the day, we want to go through habits that help us regulate stress, so we're not coming into the evening, crazy wound up. And then in the evening, that being said, we still want to know how to wind down. Even if we are, more regulated during the day, hey, we still want to know how to really wind down into this nice night of sleep, right? So let's attack those 3 phases of the day. All right, so the morning, in our first hour awake, right? What are some things we want to do in that first hour? Okay, so first of all, ideally, we have a consistent wake time within an hour variance, at most, ideally 30 minutes. And what is your wake time right now on most days?
My wake time most days is between 5:40 to 6 is what I try to do. And my bedtime is around that 10 to 10:15-ish window.
Okay,
So,
not bad.
what about you? Where are you at these days?
I've generally been between a 6 and 6:30 guy. Like, I just started coaching at 6 a.m. a couple of days a week. So that means on those days I'm up at 5:20. So I've made the shift to never being asleep later than 6.
Nice.
So kind of to make my window a little tighter.
And then bedtime now is?
by 10.
Okay.
Yeah. And then within that, first hour wake after our nice consistent wake time, we want to get outside. Okay, so 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight, getting in your eyes in the morning is an incredible habit. Ideally 20 to 30 if it's cloudy, but even if it's cloudy, the light coming from the sun is still much more powerful than any artificial light at this time of day. And we'll talk about how artificial light can be powerful enough to disrupt sleep later in the day, but in the morning we want the intensity of the low solar angle sunlight that it kickstarts a mechanism in your brain that makes you tired again in 14 to 16 hours. Okay, so if we're missing this, our brain doesn't really know properly that we're awake, and again have that pressure later in the day to knock back out. So if anyone's having trouble being tired enough later in the day, this is usually a place I go with them to make sure we're getting this timer set properly.
And for those of you that love the red light therapy and been hearing and reading all about it, the best time to do it is first thing in the morning and into the night. Just think of a sunrise, sunset, when you start seeing some of those colors in the sky. And that way you can just get it naturally from the sun on as much exposed skin as you can. Super helpful for the same process.
Yep. Love it. Yeah. Also within that first hour awake, we want to move. Yeah. This doesn't have to be your full workout. That's not what works for your schedule, but can we do a walk outside as a way to get that sunlight? Can we, do a quick little mobility routine? Some sort of movement is going to help your body know that it's time to be awake. And then can we drink water? Staying hydrated throughout the day is much easier if you start hydrated. Yeah, so just having a big, glass of water to kick things off. We haven't drank water since the previous night, and front loading your water intake will also help you not be getting disrupted the next night because you're peeing because you drank all your water late at night, right? So kind of start that process early. And then along with that, if you can delay your caffeine intake for an hour, that's another very beneficial habit. Caffeine works by inhibiting a molecule in your body that basically it makes you feel fatigue, but it doesn't give you energy. It just kind of blocks the fatigue. My body's clearing that molecule overnight, but it's not entirely done with it. Okay. And if I have caffeine right away, some of those adenosine molecules, that's kind of the molecule that kind of causes fatigue, linger. And once that caffeine wears off, I feel the crash, and then I have more caffeine in the afternoon, and it kind of can disrupt my sleep that night and kind of keeps the negative feedback loop going. So if need be, have something else other than your caffeine early in the day to kind of, give you that hit of something warm and that morning ritual. But can we just delay caffeine for an hour?
Yeah, and a cup of decaf is just fine. You still get all the antioxidants of that. You still get the like Kyle said, the ritual of that warm cup or whatever you put into it and sit outside in the sunlight. Such a great thing to do. And like I said, it doesn't have to be caffeinated. And that water first thing in the morning, super helpful for it to be room temp versus really cold or really hot. So it's easier to be absorbed by your body. And if you notice if you tend to get crampy or it's more the summertime or more humid time, make a your little sports drink. So put in a little bit of some high quality, say Himalayan salt or some fresh squeezed lime or lemon can be really helpful. And some of those people just, I don't like water. Give me something that tastes better. Well, here's another way that we can do that and check a couple other boxes.
Love it. Yeah. So these are kind of our non-negotiables, so to speak. We want the consistent wake time. We want you to get outside, move a little bit, and get hydrated. Another optional bonus one would be some cold exposure. So, could be a full-on cold plunge in a cold plunge, a pool, ocean, could be a cold shower, could just be splashing some cold water on your face, but this will help you feel more alert to start the day, which again, the more we can wake your body up properly now, the easier it'll be to fall asleep later. Okay, so just another tool there. As I shifted my wake schedule a little earlier, like I just mentioned, I was using this the first week to kind of help my body feel a little more ready to go earlier than I was used to being awake. Once we move on to the daytime, now this is all about regulating stress. Okay, so this is now the meat of the day here. How do we just not arrive at the evening too wound up? Okay, so within your workday, a few key things we want to kind of talk about here. Can you schedule breaks and buffer time into your workday? If your workday is a sprint from 8 to whenever you're done, you're going to feel very wound up and have this mountain to kind of wind down from. Small 5-10 minute breaks in your day can be huge for just a little mental reset. It can actually help you be a whole lot more productive, even though you are, quote unquote, losing time to those breaks. And then buffer time, can be very valuable. Hey, planned time in my day, maybe 2 30-minute windows where I don't know what I'm doing there, but I know something random is going to come up, right? And if I don't have any buffer time, well, then that pushes everything else in my day later. And again, it can just be eating into my wind down routine time, right? So having these buffer time slots that allow for random things to come up, can be a very helpful practice.
And along these lines, having a habit stack with this buffer time or the scheduled breaks. love to use, if I front loaded my water well, I'm going to have to use the restroom. So when I do need to use that restroom, that's going to override any project or anything that I'm so focused and I feel like I can't take a break. Well, now that's going to override that. And I'm going to have to take a break, use the restroom. And while I'm there, what can I do? Can I go stand outside in the sunlight for 2 minutes? Can I walk up and down a flight of stairs or just do something just to kind of break that up, create that little movement? Maybe, like I said, get some sunlight in the eyes and then just have a way to kind of down regulate and focus on breath. And then you'll come back. And a lot of times, some of those things that you may have been stuck on, or you're just ready and refreshed, ready to start the next project.
Love it. Love it. So then another thing to factor into your workday here, no post-noon caffeine. We already touched on this a little bit in the morning habit, but caffeine after noon is going to have an impact on your sleep that night. Varying degrees for different people, but caffeine has a long half-life. It stays in the body for a long time. And even if you're able to fall asleep later, it's still going to be disruptive, right? So if you're nowhere near noon right now, there's not a black and white, line here. The closer you can get to it, the better. But thinking if I just get rid of that afternoon caffeine, I might be shooting myself in the foot with all the things I'm trying to do here that I take away from this podcast. And then lastly, having some sort of closing ritual can be huge to help the brain be spinning less later that night or spinning in the middle of the night. So can there be some sort of journaling practice maybe where I write down my tasks for tomorrow and I write a piece of gratitude, a win from the day, and then I close that day, or some sort of brain dump practice, or maybe it's on the way home. I listen to relaxing jazz on my commute that kind of shifts my brain from workday to home life, right? So some sort of wrap up is a very valuable practice. Lots of different tools available there.
Yeah, and it just, for those that have a monkey brain like myself, as I said, I can't overemphasize this. And when I do it well, and when I don't, it has a huge impact generally on the next day, because I don't notice it until then because of my disruption at night or sleep. Some of you guys have to work at night just because of deadlines, or you're an entrepreneur and it's like, hey, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done. But having some time there to just add some closure, put those thoughts on paper so that they don't get forgotten.
Yeah, I have a big running to-do list of all my ongoing tasks, but at the end of each day, I write down the 3 for tomorrow. What are the big 3 tomorrow that would make tomorrow a success? And that's such a nice, incredibly beneficial habit for my mental health that I can kind of turn the brain off. That list will be there for me tomorrow. Right. Exercise. So during the daytime, can we get your more vigorous exercise in? This might be, pre-work, lunch break, post-work, but sometime during kind of the meat of the day. Right? We're trying to avoid very intense exercise very late at night. It's going to be tough to wind down if I'm doing a very vigorous session after dinner. If possible, can I get this in somewhere during the meat of the day?
And most of you guys know, some of you guys love training in the morning. Sometimes it's midday, sometimes it's kind of right after work, but all of those are great based upon your chronotype and what works best for you. Just try to have that consistency of that, which of course you guys know we're going to talk about it because that's one of our foundational principles as well. So.
Yep. And then get outside. So Peter mentioned earlier, hey, maybe those little work breaks or buffer time, can some of that time be spent outside? Midday sunlight is incredibly valuable for vitamin D, huge mental health benefits from that, huge stress relieving benefits in general to being in nature. So we don't get the same benefits here from our, sunrise and sunset, low solar angles. Those are kind of very helpful for setting our circadian rhythm. But this is just, huge stress relief in general to get outside more during the day.
And just being exposed to outdoor air, just get out of that recycled air, especially if it's summer or winter and there's a lot of HVAC running. Just breathe what was meant for us to breathe.
Yep. And then nap if needed, right? So say, hey, I'm keeping my sleep-wake windows really consistent, but last night my sleep window got pushed an hour later, okay? I listened to the pod, I kept my wake window the same to keep my rhythm on track, but I'm lagging a little bit. I have some time for a nap. Can we keep it to either 15 to 20 minutes or longer, 75 to 90? The short nap is going to be not entering deep sleep, and what's going to be a quick little, a power nap, leave you feeling nice and refreshed. The 75 to 90 minute will let you go through a full sleep cycle, and again, leave you awake. When you wake up, you'll feel pretty refreshed. If I sleep somewhere in the middle, more in that 30 to 60 minute range, I'm going to be waking up in the middle of deep sleep, and I might feel pretty disoriented, groggy, and not really feel much better. Right? I think we all can identify with that feeling. So even if I only have an hour, well, if I can't go beyond the hour to get to that 75 to 90 range, maybe I only nap for 15 to 20. That might be better. I might feel better doing it that way.
And ideally, try to have this around, say, 8 hours before your planned bedtime. So if I'm going to go to bed at 10, maybe 1:30 to 1:45, I'm just laying down, I'm resting. I might get into, early stage of sleep and then wake up and feel, hey, I feel refreshed. My brain got a little bit more clarity and I'm ready now to tackle the day, as opposed to, hey, where's my coffee? I need my coffee.
And again, this can stack with your breaks in your workday. Even if you don't think, I only have 15 minutes, I might not be able to fall asleep, just laying there and closing your eyes. That's still a nice break. You're still going to feel a little more recharged when you wake up, right? So Those are our main key daytime habits. So we've woken ourselves up properly in the morning. We've regulated our stress during the day. Now let's move into the evening. How can we wind down, even if we're not arriving there very wound up? Okay. So let's first talk about light exposure. Okay. So can we view natural evening light? Just like we did in the morning, viewing natural light in the evening. Again, that kind of low solar angle of sunlight hitting the bottom of your retina, the specific wavelengths of light that are present at sunlight help your body realize the day is ending. It's time to wind down. I used to not be able to do this because I would always kind of be coaching during sunset. But then maybe on Fridays I'd get off a little earlier, and that night I'd sleep so good. I realized the power of it, and now I can do it more frequently.
So that post evening or post dinner evening walk is probably one of the most beneficial things you can do. This is one of them, but also just helping your body digest the food that you have. This is not intense. This is easy. It'll help you regulate your insulin and based off what you ate in your meal, and your body will kickstart that, and it'll set you up for success that night. And then, of course, leading the next day.
And so after that natural evening light, can we minimize artificial and overhead light? So a little bit of artificial light can still be enough to disrupt the body's realization that this is now nighttime. I'm trying to be tired. I'm trying to relax. And overhead light specifically, light from above kind of goes through your eye and hits the back of the bottom of your retina. Okay. And that is, more associated with, daytime, sun is up high, right? So it keeps me awake. So having your lights be dimmer and lower, so your table lamps, candlelight being especially optimal, will keep you awake less than bright overhead light. So can we shift that in the evening? I always turn off our kitchen light after dinner and, turn on a low table lamp or a candle. Because I notice that helps me feel much more tired when I am hoping to be tired.
And if you have to do some stuff or it's got to be lighter, let's say your spouse is like, hey, I don't like this. I want it brighter. This is what works best for me. You might put on some blue light blocking glasses or something that will naturally just kind of dim the room. Or even I've had people even just put a hat on. I know it feels weird inside, but it blocks that light from up high. So finding what works for you and your situation.
Love it. And then for intake, for food, liquids, and alcohol, can we slowly and mindfully enjoy dinner? That's just a great nutritional habit that'll help you listen to your body's cues and, stop when you're properly full, but also make it more of a wind down habit. Can dinner, be sort of the shift from the chaos of the day into a calmer evening? And then can we stop intake 2 to 3 hours before bed? So digestion is something that can disrupt sleep a little bit. Having a lot of liquid late at night, I might have to wake up to go pee, and then that's going to be another sleep disruptor. And then alcohol in general is just a big sleep disruptor, and that we'll talk a little bit more about later. But if all these things can be a little further from bedtime, you're going to see less of an effect on your sleep. And then also, hey, what do I tend to be eating late in the day? It's probably not the best options right before bed. It tends to be more the snack food, the processed food, the cravings, as opposed to actually addressing nutrient or energy needs. So, hey, if you just have this policy in place for the benefits of your sleep, well, there's other benefits there as well.
Yeah, the food manufacturers, processors know about those highly palatable foods, and what tastes great at 9 o'clock at night may not be the same as what you're eating for dinner.
Yep. Yeah. So to continue our evening wind down, we just want to have some sort of a routine. So here, this can vary a lot, but having a routine helps your body know, whenever I do this, it's now time for bed, right? So some things that are especially powerful in that routine are a warm shower or bath. Okay, so warm water kind of counterintuitively actually helps you cool down your core body temperature. Once I kind of warm myself up, my body has to cool down in response to that. And cooling down is part of actually what makes me tired. I have to cool my core body temperature in order to fall asleep. So a little exposure to warm kicks off that cooling process that then will help me knock out. And then some sort of non-stimulating activity, not scrolling. After a day of being all wound up, the stimulating short-term dopamine hits of scrolling on social media or whatever else you're doing on your phone is going to be more stimulating than you think, even if it feels like veg time. So can we put the phone away, maybe put it in a separate room if you need to, and what other activities can replace that? Because if you just try to not use your phone but have nothing else to replace it, it might be hard. Okay? So can this be a puzzle? Could this be some mobility time? Could this be reading a book? If this is going to be TV, hey, it's still screen time, but probably better than the phone. But could it be a calming TV show? Could it be something that's not going to leave you clicking for 2 more episodes than you planned on because they were such suspenseful cliffhangers? And if possible, can you sneak in mobility or floor sitting time? Is there another really valuable practice? Yeah, can I do this while I'm getting my hips and ankles and spine moving a little bit more? It'll naturally get me breathing and kind of calming myself down. That's a very non-stimulating form of movement that I can sneak in later in the day.
For us old people, it's like, hey, for pre-cell phones, what did you used to do at night?
Yep.
When there wasn't that option? I know some of you guys might have to ask your parents, but
Man, my early days were probably still Screen, probably Sports Center, watching Sports Center 3 times in a row.
Oh, there
Well, I've seen the top 10 before, but hey, maybe there's been a new play since I watched it last. Yeah, but it was
can't miss it. Can't miss
not
it.
nearly as stimulating. So then, lastly, designing your environment. And can you sleep in a cool, dark, quiet room? So again, cool helps the core body temperature stay cool overnight. So again, have a fan going or a window open or some AC on if you need it. Your hands and feet are also the areas that release the most heat from your body. So if it's really a warm time of year, having your foot out from under the blanket can help your body stay cool over the course of the night. Dark, the darker the better. So even little lights from your alarm clock or a light on the TV, even if the TV's off, hey, if you can put tape over those things or something like that to make your room as dark as possible will help. And then quiet, earplugs if needed. Can I just have a nice quiet environment? Some people do like white noise, and that might be okay if that helps quiet the brain. But just that's a variable you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, and with that white noise, it's if you can have it even if it's on a timer or it gets lighter or even goes off in the night once you're into deep sleep, that's actually ideal. Something I'm trying to do more so with my family, because when you're trying to go to bed, there's always these little things that you're just really trying to quiet that brain. So that's when it can be really helpful. Very common with kids, having that white noise going on in the room, and then once they fall asleep into that deep sleep, we'll maybe have that thing turn off.
Love it. Love it. And then only using your bed for sleep and sex. If I'm using my bed for things all throughout the day, that's where I respond to emails, and that's where I, watch my stressful TV show for 2 hours before going to bed. The bed becomes associated with other activities that are awake activities, right? And the more you can kind of compartmentalize things, have the bed be, when I enter bed, it's time to knock out very quickly. It'll be easier and easier to do that. If sometimes I get into bed and I'm doing a very stimulating activity, it's going to be harder to knock out when I want to. So we've kind of addressed some of these major disruptors to sleep throughout the talk so far, but we just want to kind of touch base on them one more time. So the major disruptors to sleep. Alcohol is a big one, right? So I used to have a Fitbit on, and I could, my sleep data would be, pretty consistent. And there was someone's wedding. There was a friend reunion. Whenever you could see the spikes whenever there was, a few drinks that there weren't normally there. Even if this feels like it knocks you out, after 2 glasses of wine, I sleep like a baby. You might go to sleep, but the quality of your sleep is going to be greatly disrupted. Stress in general, we've talked about that a lot, how to, kind of manage stress throughout the day. But, having the brain be calmer is going to be, make it easier to fall asleep, easier to stay asleep, and easier to enter quality deep sleep. And one of the stress we still wanted to include is, including late exercise, So we mentioned that earlier. Hey, ideally, this is, part of the middle of the day. Vigorous exercise at night, if it's leading to sleep disruptions, hey, maybe the pros and cons aren't favorable there. I was just talking to somebody who they do strength training in the morning, but they wanted to get more cardio as they're doing it after they got off work, which was already a late shift. They were, working in a restaurant, and they were, doing their cardio at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know if that's going to be worth the benefits of that are going to be worth the trade-offs that you're going to see in your sleep. Yeah. So just, if possible, can we shift that exercise to earlier in the day?
Another thing on those lines too, when you exercise late, you're going to probably be hungry, and then you're going to eat, and then that's going to push it back even farther. Mm-hmm. So that's why we just truly try to manage. Some people might want to move or do something light, again, going out for walks, sitting in the sauna, stuff like that. But generally, those are not things that are going to cause you to crave more food. Yeah. So then it's helpful for that whole digestive process.
And then lastly, screens. I talked about how the phone time can be super stimulating. The artificial light can be very stimulating. So just the less of the alcohol, stress, and screens in the evening, the better you're going to feel as you try to go to bed that night. Other common questions we wanted to address, even if they didn't fit neatly into our flow, is the topic of wearables and sleep trackers. I just kind of mentioned that I used to wear a Fitbit for a time. What I have typically found for people is that wearables provide a good short-term benefit and that they help you see trends. Okay, so I don't even have too much preference if it's a Fitbit or an Oura Ring or a Whoop Band, because they're all going to be accurate enough for you to see trends. When I do this, I see a big dip. And again, usually it's those big disruptors of alcohol, I'm very stressed, eating late at night. You kind of notice the patterns, and seeing data can make those patterns less appealing. Okay, I no longer want to do that because I see what it's doing to my sleep. So if that leads to you doing that less, great, that's a big win. The trade-off can be if you get kind of too obsessive about the data, and because they're all imperfect, they'll have their imperfections, especially the catch-all recovery score that they tend to give you is just based on their algorithm summation of a few different things, but it really has no true biological significance. So when you're saying, I can't work out today because my Whoop says I'm a 60, but what if it's, hey, I'm a busy professional, I only have 2 days a week to work out, maybe you should still work out in that window. Hey, maybe I'm not going to have my best all-time session, but I still should train, and I'm just going to, because I have tomorrow to recover, I don't have tomorrow to work out, right? So that's where I've seen the wearables start to go negatives, that they almost start to rule your life, and kind of you lose touch with how am I feeling, and lose touch with the context of, well, in my life, in my exact situation, do I have the ability to move things around or not? I might just need to kind of suck it up and go for it. And we're more resilient creatures than we'd think, right?
I had a little time with a Whoop band, and I honestly was like, I'm going to prove this sucker wrong regarding like alcohol, like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, not even late, or having a meal, because it was very common, because I spent most of my life trying to gain weight. It was very common for me to eat a big meal before bed. But then once I had that, it made me really second guess some of those options that I did, because my quantity of sleep was very similar. It didn't really change, but my quality, the amount of REM and deep sleep I had was dramatic, probably 50%. So I used it for that. And then I was like, cool, I'm done. I know how this will affect me. Now I can make a decision based upon my why and my goals.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Yeah. Other common questions, mouth tape. I'll turn it over to Peter for mouth tape.
This is something I've been doing for years. I found that, even talking with our dentist a little bit too, is people that that breathe through their nose versus their mouth. Very different shape of their mouth, very different with how the air is absorbed, and the structure of the mouth and the structure of the throat. So just having a little simple piece of tape, there's many different things that are out there. You can Google it, but just forcing your body to take in air through the nose tends to have, again, another dramatic effect. My respiratory rate went down. Again, I started playing with this too with my Whoop, and my quality of my sleep improved as well. So something that I found very helpful, and I'm hoping to do to my kids, but they keep ripping it off. So I might have to do it when they go to sleep.
Lots of positive downstream effects to being a nasal breather by default. So if you're having trouble with that, and yeah, can I use the nighttime to kind of get my body to switch to being nasal breathing by default? I shouldn't need those kinds of breaths when I'm sleeping. I need them when I'm running from a bear, but not when I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah,
Right?
nasal breathing is so parasympathetic. That's why we highly talk about it with recovery stuff, with breath work, with going to bed, all those things. It's just so paramount to just switching that nervous system.
Yeah. And then supplementation.
So here we're not huge fans, just like with nutrition. We want our big foundational pieces, and the supplementation is what it is, to supplement for that last little bit. Some basic things, melatonin is probably the most common one that you'll hear and have read, and we're okay in moderation, and mainly to kind of reset, or, hey, I got a really, really stressful week, and I know I'm going to be not able to do these things as well. Maybe I have a 1 to 3 dose of milligram right before bed just to help, and then I'm going to try to get off of that. Or I get to the weekend, I don't need that anymore. But if you don't need it, highly encourage you not to do it. If you are going to use it, try not to make it a chronic thing. And then there's magnesium, is something that most people, especially who are athletic and training and moving and sweating, we're not getting as much from our food. So finding a form of magnesium, there's many different out there that helps you be able to relax and calm down, can be helpful and beneficial. Another, like, there's some stuff like ashwagandha and L-theanine. Those things are more from the natural herb perspective, and those can be really helpful there and not have any responses that are addictive in nature. So again, use them only if you need, and if you do decide, do it consistently for a little bit and record, track, see, does it help, does it not, just so you know, so you're not just taking it for the sake of taking it, but foundational pieces first.
And like we said, if foundational pieces aren't in check, or they are sometimes and not other times, well, those are going to create bigger variances in your sleep quality. So if I'm adding a supplement, I might not be able to tell, is it actually helping me or not? Get the other things in place first, and then address with this to kind of see, hey, does this give me a tiny little extra edge if you need that? And then to kind of put it all into one slide here, just so you can kind of take a quick screenshot of this if you want. We're going to put everything that we talked about here onto one slide, just so you can kind of see, okay, here's all the things I can do, right? We don't need to be perfect with all this, especially if you're sleeping great right now. But hey, I just want to see, can I be a little bit better? Is there something on this list I'm not doing that I can add in, right? And as for where do you start, what we would pick, how we would pick the one habit to implement is looking at either the biggest bottleneck. So let's talk about that first. Where's the biggest bottleneck in my day? And I love asking, why does that happen over and over and over to figure this question out? So say someone says, I'm just not tired enough at night. Okay, well, let's go back. Okay, what's your evening like? What's middle of the day like? What's the morning like? Or I can't go to bed because I'm just too busy. I'm working until midnight. Okay, well, why are you working until midnight? Okay, because I've got this really busy season in my job right now. Okay, well, why can't you do all this work from 8 to 5? Oh, because I'm getting interrupted with calls and all this other stuff. Okay, well, maybe we, block out times where you respond to your phone and other times where you do dedicated project work so you're more productive, et cetera, right? So you can kind of go back and find the root of the issue.
There's almost always a solution. So it's one of those, just like, no, don't just accept it. Let's work at it. And if you want some help, let us help you.
And then the second thing would be, hey, which habit is going to give me the highest return on my investment? So for example, scheduling a morning walk. That's one habit. But that gives me a consistent wake time if it's scheduled. It gives me sunlight exposure, and it gives me a little bit of movement. So I check almost all the boxes there from the ideal morning habits just by scheduling a morning walk. Hey, if I have a glass of water and then go walk, now I'm killing it. Now I've done everything, right? So like you can kind of make these big swings with one action if it's the right action. So that's our main takeaway for you today is, hey, just pick one thing. We addressed a lot today because there's so many things that can impact your sleep. But pick one thing. Where are you going to start? Integrate that into your life, and then pick the next thing. Then pick the next thing. No failure, only feedback, just like with everything else. You can never learn less. You can only learn more.
Yeah, and again, sleep is one of those things that's worth it, worth to dive deep and continue to peel those layers off to figure out what's best for you. In different seasons of life, that may look different, but it's worth the investment to do it.
You will realize the most how valuable it is when it changes. Either when you're not sleeping that good or you're sleeping okay and you start sleeping great, then you'll never want to lose that, or vice versa. You're sleeping great and you start sleeping bad, you'll want to figure out how to get back there, right? So once you start tinkering with it, you'll realize more and more how valuable it is.
Or just have a kid and see what happens. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Thank you much. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.